Hi everybody. It has been a couple of weeks. We have had a very crazy time here at Leigh PR and Transformational Coaching, and I want to let you know that the PR Presence program is open again. The doors are closed right now. We are underway. So it has been open, but you cannot join at the moment. And we are moving through all of the modules for the next 5 weeks. And I wanted to talk to you today about something that became a very hot topic in this week's initial session. So my students might have felt like we were just going to talk about PR and their mindset about PR, what they believe about PR, and aspects around their own beliefs about themselves and their ability to do an interview and their experience with interviews, that sort of thing. But we went a lot deeper because, you know, with me, we never sort of go halfway. We always go the whole way, and then we go a little bit further to make sure there's nothing that we missed. And I want this to be really valuable for you, because even if you're not doing PR, this story is for you. I often teach marketing generalists, so a person that's got marketing qualification, like I had. I had started with a marketing management qualification, and I was led by the universe into PR, and it was the perfect fit because I had so much experience in sales and influencing and things like that, and PR was the perfect fit to help people, but to influence in the media space to get stories out there. So when I'm teaching marketing generalists about PR, it's always interesting because they'll come in with beliefs about how it would work. And there's always a lot of insight for people about how it would work and why talking about your the people that you work for's brand. So you're an employee and you can talk about the widgets that you sell. Did you study economics? I did one subject. It was a nightmare, and well, for me, and that we talked a lot about widgets in that subject, and they're like hypothetical products, imaginary products. And so when a person that's even a skilled marketer standing up to talk about they're selling toothpaste or product or whatever the thing is, they can talk about that all day. But then you ask them to talk about the really big change that happened in their life. So maybe they've overcome a really big health setback and they decide they want to share their story and be, you know, an inspirational speaker or speak about different, you know, methods and things like that that they navigated and what could be helpful for people to know, people who are on the journey. It's going to be a different story because they're talking about themselves, and you will, throughout your life, have been treated a certain way. Sorry, I don't know if that came out. Treated a certain way when you spoke up, when you used your voice. And this goes back to old centuries ago times when people with a voice were leaders, like landlords, kings, queens, leaders of the community. Everybody else had to stay in their place. And all of these different intergenerational issues that have been handed down, it doesn't matter what color you are, it was a class thing. And the different tools and methods that were used and applied in the community to keep the non-leaders quiet, they weren't to be heard. It filtered through to very recently, and probably still happening today, where young people are told to speak when they're spoken to and that sort of thing. So then you, in 2024, decide you're going to share your story and you're going to talk about your business, or you're going to talk about your enterprise or your innovation, or you're going to talk about your lived experience. Oh my God, all of that stuff comes up. And so in our first session in the PR Presence program, we were talking about the course curriculum, and what it led to was a really generous share by one of the students around how it is that they can be very comfortable, you know, on stages and doing things. But when it comes to talking, just the thought of being interviewed about their story, their health journey, and even aspects of their business, because it's all very personal, they just feel a bit sick. And I want to tell you about the 3 big reasons why that happens. And there's a lot more than 3. I think I'm going to have to work on a book outlining them, because it is what happens in your body that will affect your ability to share and speak. It's what goes on inside. And a lot of that is really interlaced with what goes on up here. And unfortunately, you've been practicing this your whole life. These different beliefs, these different nervous system responses to situations where you might be in the spotlight and you're not talking about work or something that you can separate yourself from really easily. It's just, you know, your job, that sort of thing, or a thing that's really finite, like a product at work. And when it's your story, it doesn't really have a beginning and end. It's all of you. So the 3 big things, the first one that I want to talk about is, you might notice that you get a lot of inner words and talk and thoughts and feelings, and, well, we'll stick with the thoughts, that are negative when you're trying to step up and stand out and be in the spotlight and talk about things that are very personal for you. And there's this really overwhelming fear of getting it wrong. And especially if you're in the company of people that you really respect, it can be completely crippling, paralyzing, and you don't know why, because you don't really feel scared, but you're noticing that you are like you're losing your groundedness. And that sense of hearing other voices, so this is very specifically in the context of only when you're speaking about yourself, your business, your enterprise, your dreams, what's close to your heart, telling people a vulnerable share, that sort of thing. When you notice that you feel like, I shouldn't be saying this, who am I to say this? Definitely, who am I to say this? And maybe I'm going to get in trouble, or I'm going to get it wrong. I want you to know it's very unlikely that that is actually your voice. So as a trauma-aware coach, I've done a lot of reading, a lot of work, and had a lot of work done on me, to be honest, in this area around what we navigate that is within us. And self-knowing, self-knowledge, self-awareness is a really big part of your change journey. And you know, we talk a lot about change on this channel. And so when you notice that the unhelpful thoughts are coming up when you're trying to step up and stand out and be visible in the spotlight, and you notice that you might not even take any action to getting anywhere near a spotlight or a stage or an online video or any opportunity like that, you might find that you always come up with something else that's more important that you should be doing. If it's for your business or your hobby or your side hustle or whatever it is, you will avoid it without even thinking about it. It'll just be this, I guess you call it unconscious avoidance. And that procrastination is heavily, heavily linked to these inner thoughts, your inner critic, that is really having a go at stopping you from taking action. Because when you don't take action, you're safe. Nobody can laugh at you. Nobody can humiliate you. You can't get it wrong because you haven't even tried. So that's one of the reasons why you will experience this is during your upbringing, somewhere along the line, people have said different things to you. You've had experiences at school, someone's laughed at you, and it could have been a teacher, or in the dance class, or at home. And when it happens at home, it is really hard for individuals to identify that, because for us to come out and really state it was actually my parent who on one hand loved you, but on the other hand had been raised in a strict or authoritarian kind of way and spoke to you in a certain way whenever you tried to speak about what was important for you, your hopes, your dreams, tell your personal story, talk about your feelings, all of these different things. It's going to have laid some pretty heavy lead on you in terms of your ability to easily, freely, comfortably just get up and speak about your venture, your book, your story, how you feel. And so some people that I've coached over the years cannot comfortably speak at family gatherings, and they cannot, definitely not speak at work functions or in anything related to their job. It would even be difficult to speak in work meetings, but they can kind of handle that because it's work. It's not about them. It's really important to recognize this first big barrier around sharing your story when it's not your professional work and you're speaking about yourself. That voice is often not your voice. It's really important to know that those words that you hear, the way you start feeling about yourself and how you're kind of getting told to get back in your box, it's not your voice. So that's a really important thing to think about. Well, whose voice is it? Do I know? And the big one, I really want to let you off the hook on this, is it doesn't matter who it was. It really doesn't matter, because the important thing is recognizing that it's not your voice, that it's not you, and you would never speak to you like that. The whole idea is to love and nurture and take care of yourself so that you can, shine your light in the world and be strong and solid and resilient and able to stand up in this world and share all of the wisdom that you're gaining. So you would never put yourself back in the box or anything like that. It's not you. And the second one is that because those different external forces have caused this for you in your journey, generally your nervous system has a very strong reaction to when you're in the situations and environments that would lead to you being spoken to a certain way and having an uncomfortable experience and all that sort of thing. So when you're going to step on a stage or stand up at a gathering or stand up in an environment where you're speaking about your story. So remember, it's not about work things, because I bet all of you are great at standing up at work and doing presentations and things like that. Different story when you're creating something for yourself and sharing your soul's song. Different story, because it's very vulnerable. And so your nervous system is going to suddenly get very aware that this is a lot like the time when that happened, when you were earlier in your life. And look, for some people, unfortunately, it may not have been that long ago, but at any time in your life when you've been in this situation where a really confronting thing was said to you, or an experience happened, or you were humiliated, it all comes back and you will notice it in your body. And people that I've coached talk about shaking. And so that is the fright, flight, freeze, and fawn. Those 4 trauma responses coming up in the form of the wanting to run, the flight. The shaking is you wanting to get out of there at a very deep subconscious kind of level. You're not, your body is ready to run. And the great thing is the reason why animals and bodies and things like that behave that way is when they have an experience, like an animal running for its life and that sort of thing, and they escape, what will happen is they will keep on shaking, and they will shake out all of that overload of adrenaline and all of those other different hormones and things that have made it possible for them to do some super, I was going to say superhuman, super animal, Superman performance and get away from danger, but they will shake it all out. They'll keep shaking and all of that sort of thing and removing that and releasing that trauma response. But we don't, because we try and keep it together, and we're told to stop crying and, get over it and come on, that sort of thing, and forget about it. We don't get that freedom to get rid of it properly from the body and release it. So it's important to get acquainted with it. As you're going through your journey, this is the second point around what is happening with your nervous system. Get really acquainted with it. So you want to get acquainted with two different things. Maybe if it's talking about your business or talking about your soul song, your personal journey, what it is you're overcoming, you want to get really familiar with your way that you're speaking about it. So maybe you've got some key messages that you always like to share. We've got a bit of a story that's a bit scripted, or you know generally what it is. So you practice that. You make using those words and talking about it in front of the mirror or in a practice space really comfortable. And get more and more familiar, and then practice with audiences of growing sizes. So it could be your teddy bear to begin with, but then it's going to be humans, and then it's going to be bigger groups bit by bit. And you're going to notice that the effect, I was going to call it symptoms, it's not really the right word, that response in the body will change, and you'll grow in confidence, and you will stop forgetting what you're going to say, because that's another like mind blank. Mind is focusing on other things and it's panicking because of the scenario of what you're doing. And it's really important to know that you're going to get much, much better with practice. You can't avoid it. So every time you feel like procrastinating, know that choice to put it off till another day is an avoidance tactic. The other thing can probably wait. And write yourself a little affirmation. Today's a good day to do the practice speech, or to go to the thing where I can stand up and speak, or share my story, or have that conversation that could help move things forward for me. Anything that's around difficult conversations or being in the spotlight that can bring up all of these nervous system responses, like shaking or feeling sick or breaking out in a sweat, or it's very natural for your throat to tighten. That's probably always going to happen. And I want you to know that I saw a person who was the school captain of their school. They were a graduate of a very highly esteemed degree. I'm not going to say the name of the degree. It's a long degree. It's really hard to get into, and they had that. They were a champion debater, and I saw them before they spoke at their 21st birthday, hands shaking. Personal story, it's not as easy to tell as practiced theoretical linear stuff. So this is close to your heart, and it brings up all of that deep stuff that's trapped inside of you that can be released, or at least you can become acquainted with it, and it will become much less intense as you learn how to navigate what's happening. It's all a part of you. And it's not something that you've got to worry about overcoming. It's more like getting to know this aspect of you that gets hidden and put aside all the time. And the last big one that I want you to know is getting the practice in. That thing of when our brain sees, or our mind sees, the practice of maybe it's public speaking on stages, or being interviewed, or speaking up, as more familiar, then as you have more experiences with it that are positive and that are that don't have any conflict involved in them, and they're not particularly challenging, you're just going through the motions and doing your thing and enjoying the process a little bit too, that becomes what's seen as safe and familiar. And so the trauma response isn't needed, and it becomes something that you can do. And it's much more than just the practice. It's also being aware of when that inner critic in the mind shows up, that doesn't belong to you, that is from something else, and we don't really need to know the cause. I bet you're going to know who it was though, because it has a huge impact on us when we feel negative emotions. It's unforgettable usually. Depends on the scale of that degree of negativity. Some things are so negative that you do actually block them out, but I reckon you're going to know who it might have been. So I would love to know in the comments if you've had moments like this where you can distinguish between speaking about work topics and professional things is totally fine, but when it comes to your story, or transitioning into being a business owner or an author, or putting your own story or lived experience out there, that you've noticed the difference and you thought, thought, what is going on here? I thought I could do this stuff, no problems. I would love to hear. And also I'm going to be sharing in the links below how you can access a free workbook that I've got that will really help you on this journey of just understanding yourself at another deeper level and taking your work and your stories and your voice further out into the world. So as I mentioned, the PR Presence program is closed at the moment and we're moving through all of our modules, and you'll see some posts I'll share about what our students are saying and what the journey's like. And I'll look forward to keeping you informed as it all keeps growing. It's always a journey, everything new that I create, but I do it for you so that you get to have that voice and that freedom in this lifetime and impact other people's lives. So thanks for being here today, and bye for now.